Happy Halloween! Now what can I do to scare y'all? Oh, I know! Let's talk a little about Kirby Lore. You probably heard of it. The cute platformer with a pink ball has a very deep secret story about religion, grief, war, hell, cults, post-apocalyptic events, and a little touch of blood. You know, for kids. I mean, with a premise like that, who doesn't find Kirby Lore interesting? Top that with passionate fans who love to uncover and share every secret there is. It's no wonder lore discussion is one of the most popular topics of the franchise, and the current director of the series, Shinya Masaki, knows that very well. He loves hiding hints for players to uncover all over the place. He started with some neat post descriptions during bosses, but now has grown to him making up a fake in-universe singer and having her be on stage of a real-life concert. Crazy stuff. I won't lie, Kirby Lore is what made me and so many people become fans of the series. The games are super fun and all, but did you know Susie is the daughter of President Hellman? You know, things like that keep us hooked in the franchise. Or at least that's what I thought. But for a long time, and as the more I learn about this franchise, the more odd and bad things I find, affecting not only the franchise, but the Kirby community as a whole. So that's what I want to talk about today. All about Kirby Lore. What is it? Why do people love it? How it affects the story of each game, the effect in the community, and how Kirby Lore might be hurting the series? But enough introductions. Let's talk about Kirby Lore. First of all, we need to set some ground rules. What even is Kirby Lore? And how is it different from the story of each game? Well, according to the English dictionary, lore is a particular body of knowledge or tradition. Huh, well that's useless. If we go by that definition, then something as simple as knowing Kirby speaks should be considered lore. But we know that's not our definition of Kirby Lore. So for the sake of making everything more simple and interesting, a better definition for this topic in this series in particular would be every piece of knowledge that the player has to learn out of his way. This includes things like post descriptions, optional dialogue, background elements, or types of descriptions like for figurines and abilities, official development books like the Starlight's the original art book, official internet posts on sites like Miiverse, Kirby Portal, or Kirby Twitter, and even real life events like the Kirby Cafe and the Kirby 30th Anniversary Music Fest. This definition can also be applied to the different mangas and novels, but those books have their own story and characters and all that. Even if they are core in the games, they are simply too different and too weird to consider in this video. Also, like, all of them are Japanese exclusives, so... And finally, not everything has to be canon to be considered part of Kirby Lore, like how the different sub-games like Meta Nightmare Ultra and Guest Star Mode are not canon to their normal timeline, but things like Galactanite still are. Whoosh! Okay, I swear this is the last introduction segment. Stories, in the other hand, is what the game actively shows and tells you during the game. This can be things like cutscenes and forced interaction, which might not sound like much, but that's because the lore is just so stupidly big it makes everything else look small. That should be enough explanations, for now at least. Some people can argue about what I consider lore and what I don't, but I think it's good enough for this video in particular. We good? Nice! First, we should not get all dark and gloomy just yet. We should talk first about the good side of Kirby Lore. Why do people even like it? Kirby Lore actually has a lot of stuff going in its favor. I mean, he has to if it's so popular. I think it has 3 main points of why it's so good. First one and the most simple. Because it's Kirby! It can sound stupid, but hear me out. We all know Kirby was created to be a simple platformer that everyone can play and enjoy. Full of fun levels, amazing upbeat happy music, and a main protagonist that's literally just a pink circle. Seeing this cute, seemingly for kids franchise and then going deeper, seeing the dark secrets is hiding, an endless web of info connecting everything with major holes to be filled, the combination of knowing more than you should, but still knowing nothing. All from a series that shouldn't be like this. That's a very attractive concept. Turning something innocent into something scary is a tactic used a ton these days in all forms of media. It's the reason why creepypasta got so popular. It's the reason games like FNAF got so popular. It's the reason why there are so many scary reboots. And it's the reason why Kirby Lore is so attractive. Just to a less scary manner, so it can coexist with the main story. And it does that in a fantastic way. Aside from Zero in Dreamland 3 and Effect of Forgo, Kirby doesn't try to do horror, and he probably never will. As much as we love the creepy side, Kirby being a cute entry-level platformer is always the main goal and is the basis of the franchise, and the lore knows this, which is why it walks this tightrope of being darker than normal but not too much so everyone can still enjoy it. It's honestly crazy when you think about it. The second main point is the chance to expand the world and its characters without compromising gameplay. Do we need Krako to tell us about how he feels? Holy fuck! No. But if you look at the past description in Fighters Deluxe, we see that Krako both hates Kirby and misses him when he gets replaced. Krako tsundere perhaps? Or how Susie really likes ice cream. There, I said it. Felt so bad to forget that tidbit last time. Stuff like that makes the character feel more real and more likable. Especially more modern characters like Magolor or Elfrin were a great addition to the cast. Not because of their great designs, but how they act, think and interact with the other characters. The results of the title I mentioned before. Everything can be connected. The Lord Star Cutter was made by the ancients, which could have come from the Forgotten Land, using Fecto Eflin's ability to travel between dimensions, which explains why the Lord Star Cutter can also do that, which also explains how Star Dream and Nova work. Then knowing the Master Crown was also made by them, you can connect that to Void, which was sealed by the 4 heroes of Yore, and you connect that to Galactonite being called Eon Hero in Super Kirby Clash, and you can connect that to Morphonite, and I'm getting out of hand. The point is, you can do a lot of world building with the lore, which makes the different planets and dimensions feel like actual places in this fictional universe that these fictional characters live, and not just levels in a video game. And the final point, it makes for some banger content. Like no joke, for real. Kirby fans love this series and they love sharing their passion, be it making art and crafts, making fan games, running fan sites, discussing the series and making videos about it. I'm specifically talking about the last part. As video content creation became more and more big, gaming was starting to be affected and shaped by it, and for many years the only popular Kirby related videos was for lore. I would even go out to say that if it was for Meteor's What is Kirby Canon series, Kirby would be much smaller in the West, which just made me remember his retire from YouTube. I'm not crying, you are! Sadness aside, while Meteor series was the beginning, Kirby Lore started to become pretty big with videos talking about it even reaching millions of views, with more Kirby channels popping up talking about it. Special shout out to my Ghost Scorpion C31 and White Emerald. I mean, this video wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Kirby Lore, so I think that's a positive. Or is it a negative? Well, anyways, thanks to Kirby Lore, we now have an expanded fanbase, an expanded universe, expanded characters, and expanded content. But we also have the title of the video. This all seems very positive. How on earth is this hurting the series in any way? Well, get ready, and let's talk about something called storytelling. Let me get this straight. Stories in Kirby never have and never will be the focus of the series, or even one of the main points. It's always about the gameplay, like it or not. Still, I think stories, especially in this modern era, are starting to get more important and more interesting. Being honest, the stories in the older games are just a means to an end. Not say there aren't some brilliant moments that show tons of personality and progress the story without a single line of text, but those are few and far between. What you will see more is walls of text at the beginning to present the scenario, or walls of text at the end to explain what just happened, which completely undermines the cutscenes I like. I will give Super Saiyan 64 some more credit for having a little bit more meat with twists and plenty of cutscenes, but it's still nothing too in-depth to talk about, so let's move to the modern games. Superstar Ultra, being the first Kirby game directed by Kumasaki, is the first look at what stories would be going forward, and honestly, to this day, it's one of the best examples of storytelling in the series. It's still a remake, so they didn't have as much freedom to do what they want, but for the extra modes added in the game, that being Meta Nightmare Ultra and especially Revenge of the King, they went out of their way to add as much character as possible. These two subgames show the great duality that Kumasaki loves to implement in his games, Meta Nightmare showed the thesis of what's coming next with epic fights in the form of Galactonite, a warrior that's said to be so powerful he had to be sealed up, which is not only an interesting premise, but it also complements Meta Knight's goal to be stronger. Revenge of the King, on the other hand, is the perfect example of expanding already established characters while adding new ones. I mean, Bandana Wildly was technically in the original Superstar, but thanks to Ultra we now have one of the most popular and important characters in the series. I will say that this game does lack in the lore department, with only having one special boss description. And even that's not much, but who knows, that might have been a blessing in disguise. Now moving on to Return to Dreamland, we have what is probably the best combination of lore and story. For the story side, we have Magolor. The whole game happens because of this guy. We all know what happens. Magolor lands on Popstar, Kirby decides to help him, then we go to Alcandra, defeat Landia, and Magolor takes the crown for himself, revealing that he was the evil mastermind all along. It's pretty simple when I explain it, but the game set up Magolor in such an amazing way. Unlike with Marks, Magolor constantly shows up and helps you. He gives you tips, he gives you his ship containing minigames, challenges, ability moves. And again, compared to Marks, Kirby's in no hurry over some war-ending event like how the Moon and Sun are fighting. He just does it because he wants to help this stranded traveler, which makes this review hit like a truck. For the side of lore, we have tons of dialogue explaining things like Alcandra, how Magolor found the Lord Star Cutter, why he went to Kirby in the first place. You know, things that are not necessary to understand the story. Who cares how he found his ship? What matters to us is that he has it and we need to repair it. But if you want a little bit more out of Magolor, then you can have it. This info, which you get by talking to Magolor, also makes your connection to him greater, and the fun tidbits pushes you to keep talking to him, which lets you discover one of the most important parts of Kirby lore, the Ancients. Probably the biggest piece in this gigantic puzzle, they have built almost every powerful object in the series. Nova? Well, now there are multiple Novas and they are made by them. The Star Road? Also by them. The Lord Star Cutter? Yep, that too. The Master Crown? You guessed it, by them. This in some part makes the world feel less magical and wacky, but it also makes it more interesting. A secret race of people with invincible power that somehow manages to completely disappear? Sign me up! Now that we saw how Superstar Ultra and Return to Dreamland managed to introduce the Kirby lore we know, let's move on to Triple Deluxe, where we can see the cracks show. The story in Triple Deluxe is yet again pretty simple. The people from the sky, as a last-ditch effort to save themselves from Sectonia, they planted Dreamstalk so the hero of Dreamland can save them. Sectonia saw through this plan and set Taranza to capture said hero. Taranza messes up and captures Dedede, thinking he's the hero. So now it's Kirby's job to save both Dedede and the people from the sky. A little bit more complex than in Return to Dreamland, but it's still simple enough so everyone can understand. The problem is that 90% of what I just said is told to you in the last level of story mode. Now Return to Dreamland was also very backloaded with story, but it's just one detail of the whole picture. Magolor's betrayal, which works as something shown at the end. In Triple Deluxe, you are starved of context for most of the game. You have to keep going to save Dedede, but Taranza and Sectonia make no presence during the game, so the reveals at the end come out of nowhere. Taranza comes out like an annoying kid that for some reason really wants Dedede, and the little interaction you have with him, while kinda charming, don't really show Taranza's personality. And Sectonia. This queen bee looking ass is supposed to have a whole empire with that of a military and prisoners, but aside from the last word you don't see or feel anything like that. Imagine if instead of growing the Dreamstalk with the Sandstone, you free people from the sky that grow the flower for you. That would make Sectonia's army feel way more imposing, and it would make the reveal of Sectonia feel more impacting. But instead she comes right at the end to give you a couple fights. But then you will say, well, the lore fixes that and makes the characters more lovable. But my argument to that is, why would I care? Magolor didn't need lore to make an impact. But okay, let's look at the lore. Even still, out of these two characters, Taranza is the one that set up the events. Taranza is the one you interact with in every boss battle. Taranza is the most interesting out of the two, and yet everything revealed about these two characters is Sectonia's backstory. How she looked, how she turned into this new form, and even I'll tell you guys I would bitch about this. Her name before Sectonia, which you'll find out by reading the name of one of the Kirby CPUs that you can only encounter by random when you get an incomplete lobby in the Japanese version of Kirby's Dream Buffet. Sectonia does not deserve this much lore. Triple Deluxe makes no effort into making her an interesting character, and the huge amount of lore about her doesn't explain or show anything about her personality. Why would I care about the backstory of a character I have no idea how they think of act outside of I'm bad? And then you have the balls to hide this lore behind the most obscure places of Earth, while making the semi-interesting character the most sad loser in the franchise instead of progressing him in any way? If you like these characters, that's okay. I'm not here to clown on you because of something you like, but being frankly honest, this is bad storytelling. Oh yeah, the dimensional mirror is here. Without knowing the lore, the dimensional mirror makes no sense being here. I would have like a little bit more context going into the portal and not after, but it's not that big of a deal in a sub-game. I don't care if they go a little wacky here. And from one run to another, we go to Planet Robobot. I will give the game some more credit. Planet Robot fixes almost every problem Triple Deluxe story had. It made the Hallman World Company feel like the most powerful enemy force we ever had. You can see their influence in every single aspect of the game, and that's great. What's also great is Susie, the basically Taranza of this game, serving as the lackey to the main villain. But unlike Taranza, Susie actually has dialogue in her appearances that make her an incredibly lovable character, quickly setting herself as one of the most popular characters in the franchise. And I personally love her and want her to sit on my moving on, we have Hallman, the counterpart of Sectonia, but this time the game actually builds him up as the main leader of this gigantic operation. So even if we don't see him until the end, we can still feel his presence all around the game, making his reveal feel important and intimidating. All this sounds like Robot just came in and gave us something truly amazing, and that would be the case if they didn't f it up right at the end. So okay, the big reveal of Robot is that Susie betrays Hallman at the last second and accidentally makes Stardream sentient, and now Stardream wants to eliminate all life forms. Okay, let's break this down. Why is Susie betraying Hallman? Using only what you know up to this point of the story, it makes no sense. Susie never showed any negative emotion against Hallman. In the contrary, we could see through every encounter how much Susie adored Hallman by constantly singing and talking about him. Then is something about Stardream. We do see Susie be doubtful about how powerful the mother computer is. But then in the Mechanite Plus fight, Susie seems completely shocked how a Stardream creation could have lost. What's more, Susie doesn't care much about Stardream, with her wanting to sell the computer and wanting to teach that old man a lesson. So it's not Stardream, which means in a first playthrough of the main story mode, this scene makes absolutely no sense. And if that didn't make sense, then good luck explaining how Meta Knight got his ship back a couple minutes after being defeated, knowing it was destroyed. Everything in these couple of scenes making no sense. But then you will say, the Lord fixes everything, I swear. And you're kinda right, but there are some... no, a lot of problems if we follow that route. If we read some post description, all of them being sub-games unlocked after the main game, which immediately doesn't excuse how nonsensical that scene is in the main story mode. But if we do that, then we find that after a failed experiment, Susie went missing and later came back. We also learned that Susie is Hallman's daughter, and that the true reason Stardream was reactivated was to bring Susie back. Using this post description, we can assume that somehow Susie did come back from missing and now works for the company again, which is exactly why Susie betrays Hallman at the end. Huh. Well, that makes no sense. Why would Susie betray his father? Why would Hallman not recognize Susie? Is this Susie even the same Susanna that was lost? Is she a robot? A clone? That would explain the betrayal, but she doesn't explode in purple smoke, so it makes no sense. Did Hallman lose his memories? That would explain not recognizing Susie, but this post description showed that Hallman clearly remembers her daughter, So what's the deal here? Some of you Kirby Lore fanatics are screaming at me with all the answers, but put yourself in 2016 when this game came out. Not only is using the information from the story mode useless to understand the story, but using the extra lore information that is only supposed to expand the story, not explain it, it makes the finale even worse. So back to the present, how did we find the answers? Well, let me introduce you to this little website called Miiverse. Miiverse was Nintendo's social media platform during the Wii U and 3DS days. It was an app where you could look at the different communities of each game and discuss with other fellow Nintendo fans. Really sugarcoating things here, this site was hell sometimes. It also gave developers a platform where they could show projects in development, behind the scenes things, or answer fan questions. And oh boy did Hal use this site. There are probably hundreds of posts. None of them being interesting or important, but to say we got a lot of information from Miiverse would be an understatement. But what matters here is that for Return to Dreamland Triple Deluxe, this information was optional. It didn't explain the story, it just expanded it, as it should. Triple Deluxe might not develop its characters well, but at least you could understand what they are doing and why they are doing it. In Robot, we had like 20% of the information necessary to even understand the plot, but that's what Miiverse is for, right? Kinda, but it shouldn't be. Why do we need to wait weeks, even months to have basic information? Yes, Miiverse revealed that this Susie is the original and not a robot or a clone. Yes, Miiverse revealed that Meta Knight's crew repaired the halberd, and yes, Stardream slowly destroyed Hellman's memories, leading him to forget about having a daughter, but still sensing enough to make Susie his assistant. But let's also not forget that Miiverse introduced a bunch of questions that made the universe of Kirby smaller, like with the whole what if scenarios. So much lore came from those extra modes. Is that just not canon? What about Galactonite? What about the Mirror World? What about the insane Kirby Clash Deluxe story? It's supposed to be set in a different universe, but the costumes talk about past events? I'm getting a little ahead here. What about Morphonite? He first appears in Guest Star, which should make him not canon, but then he comes back again in Forgotten Lab post-game, and that is 100% canon. So what gives? Again, over the years we have come to some conclusion regarding all this mess, but the big point here is that Kumasaki and the rest of the Kirby team screwed themselves over by adding way too much lore instead of thinking about the story. So now the main story is a mess with no explanation. They later see they have a lot of fans asking questions that Kumasaki probably didn't have planned out very well, so they just made everything more confusing, using Miiverse as their way of explaining stuff. And the cherry on top is that on November 7, 2017, Miiverse closed for good, and now if you want to understand the story, you have to go out of your way in the trenches of the internet to find the posts with lore out of the, again, hundreds of posts. Or you could watch a YouTube video, but that's not an official source, so it doesn't count for this discussion. And if that wasn't enough, then we have the culmination of everything wrong in these stories. Kirby Star Allies. Let me ask you something. In the most simple words, how would you describe Kirby Star Allies story? Maybe some of you said the Ambassadors tried to gather the Dark Hearts through free Void Termina, so now Kirby has to stop them, or a variation of that. If that's the case, let me ask you, what is Highness doing in this first cutscene? Well, he's freeing the Dark Hearts. That could be it, but then why would they go out of their way to gather every single one of them and put them back on the big purple heart? Now here's where some of you say, well, it wasn't intentional, Highness fucked up the ritual. And where did you get that? Remember, we are talking about the story, not the lore. The thing every player needs to understand, even if they care or not. But I clearly remember that being in the game. It has to be a line from the Mage Sisters or Highness. No, I checked. Not one of them even mentions a hint to that being the case, even in Highness runs, which I find hard to count as either story or lore, but it's not there. Then where is it? I know where it is. It's in the post description of Highness 1, which is right at the end. Lore has invaded Kirby so much that now the main premise of the game, the most basic parts of Kirby's stories, the parts that are supposed to be explained in a simple trailer, those parts are behind Kirby lore. But let's just keep going. Waiting for months to get more lore? Check. Using their website to explain stuff that should have been in the game? Check. Very backloaded story that ruins the pace? Check. Lack of presence or personality from the characters? I personally like the Mage Sister, but looking at the dialogue, absolutely check. Oh, and a new one, badly translated details that completely changes the characters. Wow, also check. For a long time I thought Starlight's story was phenomenal. And after all the updates, developer interviews, discussion with other fans, the neat surprises in the extra modes, it does hold a very solid ground, but it's been years since the last update, and now that the hype is gone, it's really easy to point out the flaws and how Kirby lore is not what it's supposed to be anymore. Kirby lore has consumed the franchise to such degree that it's not even fun to discuss anymore. Honestly, ever since lore started to be a little bit more well known, we had more and more cases of toxic behavior in the community. I have been a fan of the series for a long time, and in that time I also experienced what the Kirby community is like. Truth to be told, I was very shy for a long while. It wasn't until I started the channel where I was actively talking to fellow Kirby fans. Now I do it almost every single day, and it's great. For all my years of research, be it lurking in the shadows or actively participating, it was very well known that out of all the gaming communities there are, Kirby was always one of the most friendly and welcoming ones. Well, that in recent years has changed. Kirby still has a very friendly fanbase, don't get me wrong, but that doesn't make it perfect. Maybe the bar for non-toxic community is so low that Kirby is still considered in it, but ever since A Fateful Day, how Kirby fans act can be very scary, and it's all thanks to a little video by Game Theory. MadPat made a video about a theory how Kirby is actually Dreamland's biggest threat. The theory itself was, let's say, not very good, but what happened next was the bad part. The Kirby community came in drones disproving and attacking MadPat for his theory. The hate was so big in fact that he had to cancel the second part of his theory. They almost never do that, and if you know game theory, then you know how controversial 90% of their theories are. So for him to cancel a part 2, it must have been awful. That was basically the cataclysm for everything. From that point on, Kirby fans started gatekeeping more people from the series and started harassing anyone who got the smallest of details wrong. Don't want to give any names here, but another example is of a Twitter account posting about a robot girl from planet Robobot. And while not to the same degree of MadPat, the person was so overwhelmed with the hate, they not only left their gimmick account, but also their main account. Or how about a more recent one, where a Kirby character encyclopedia divided Aro and Adeline, leading people to think they confirmed to be different. One person, which again I won't name, posted this on Twitter. After people realized that characters like Mauler also got multiple pages, they went and harassed that person to the point of deleting the tweet. But it's not just direct harassment. The way Kirby fans think is completely different now. With Kirby lore not explaining every single thing of the franchise, headcanon started to become more relevant, which itself is not a problem. I mean, I have my own headcanons, but the problem is that some people take their headcanons as the absolute truth. You don't know how many times I heard the words, well, according to my headcanon, and it just makes Kirby discussion painful. So if there's anything to take away from this video, it's this next part. Please, shut the fuck up. Let people enjoy the series as they want. Who cares if they don't know everything about Kirby lore? Who cares if they don't have the same visions as you do? Who cares if they only care about the cute little ball and his cute adventures? Who cares if they only play Kirby games for the gameplay? Kirby is such a huge franchise, and gatekeeping or harassing people for not knowing everything is not okay. I'm guilty of this too. I'm not here to be the good guy. I had my fair share of problems. Maybe even in this video. Maybe I went too hard on some games. Maybe I insulted your favorite characters. But from experience, nothing is better than welcoming a new member into the community and becoming friends with them because of our shared love of Kirby. So please, take that in mind the next time you see a strange take on the timeline. We are all people behind the screen. Who am I kidding? No one is going to listen. Maybe I care too much. Maybe I need to take a step back on Kirby Lore and the Kirby community. I mean, if I don't enjoy it, why even bother? Yeah, I think I'm going to do exactly that. Sayonara, Kirby Lore. You were once cool, but that era is long gone. But we still have one more game to look at, and that one game might just be the saving grace of Kirby Lore. Kirby the Forgotten Land is, in many aspects, a breath of fresh air to the series, and that includes the story and lore. For once, we get way more dialogue and cutscenes. Then we get rid of the post description, forcing the developers to include the lore through the story, and for the optional information that replaces those post descriptions, we have figurines, some coming with juicy tidbits about the new world and its characters, which are really hard to miss, but still skippable for the people that don't care. Some of the bigger figurines with tons of lore are even forced upon you. Elfilin is also a great character. Not only is he really cute and likable, but there is hints to a darker side during all the game, making the player constantly think, is he our friend or is he going to betray us? Culminating in him getting captured by DDD. Then DDD gets his own iconic moment. Then we get voice acting, and then we encounter the leader of the Beast Pack. I forgot to talk about them, but the Beast Pack, while not as imposing as the Hallman World Company, still show their presence all around the new world, which makes this reveal of his leader feel just as intimidating as Hallman was in Robots. And speaking of reveals, this whole section, while still being a little too backloaded, feels like a natural yet shocking progression of the story. You're not confused, but you also don't know everything, which makes it much more interesting. Then the story has a canon post-game with two conclusive arcs, one being of Leon Guard returning to his normal self, and the other one being of Elfilin accepting Fergo Forgo and becoming one. It's all almost perfection, and for us lore fanatics, we got a lot of information on the ancients, Morphonite, interdimensional travel, the lost culture of the new world, and more. It's not completely perfect, sadly. Elfilin returning just a couple seconds after his emotional sacrifice is so bad it's laughable. Man, it could have been handled better in the actual story. I don't really like how the singer of the Welcome to the New World song is an in-universe character. That by itself is not bad, but what's really bad is that we know she's from in-universe because of a Japanese Twitter post. Nacho, the singer, was later revealed during the Kirby 30th Anniversary Music Fest, which was an insane moment, but without knowing about her before the reveal, it fell on deaf ears. I didn't know she was a character. I just thought, oh, the singer from the Kirby song, when everyone else was losing their minds. But those nitpicks aside, I really think Forgotten Land did an incredible job with its story, and if this game is anything to go by, then the future of the series is looking brighter than ever. But now all that's left is us. Kirby the Forgotten Land brought a ton of people to the community, and we can't keep being mean to people. Let's be like our hero. Let's go out there, make friends, share our combined love for the Kirby series. Not everyone might know everything, but that doesn't make them less of a fan. We all got into Kirby for a different reason. But what we all have in common is that we have fun with the series. Let's not ruin anyone else's fun. But hey, that's what I think. Let me know down in the comments what do you think about the lore, the story, or the community. This was a really interesting video to make, since I still want to keep the negative parts while not making all the videos just a rant, so I tried to balance it with a lot of positivity. Still, I know some people will just read the title and complain, but I know you guys that are still here are the true goats. And you know what? Just for you guys that got here to the end, it's a special question for you. How did you get into the series? I should probably keep the comment section somewhat more positive. I'm really looking forward to your guys' comments. But enough rambling. That's all from me, and I'll see you on the next... Wait, isn't a huge game coming out in like a couple days that I should really care about?